Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for attending Azusa's virtual town hall on coyote safety. My name is Sophia, and I'm here with my colleagues Sam and Vanessa. We represent the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments, which is a regional agency that seeks to improve the quality of life in the San Gabriel Valley. In our presentation today, we will review Coyote 101, attractants and deterrence, hazing, some myths and facts about coyotes, our program, and some steps to take moving forward.
Thank you, Sophia. So here are some identifiers that will help you basically identify a coyote. Some of them would include their upright ears, their long snout, their long bushy tail. And according to the Southern California Urban Coyote Study, adult coyotes can weigh from 16 to 37 pounds, making them an average of 25 pounds. And coyotes are actually omnivores. Their diet consists of berries, fruits, and vegetables, small rodents, raccoons, birds, rabbits, garbage, pet food, and sometimes, unfortunately, small unprotected pets. Their offsprings are usually born between mid to late spring, and their litters consist of 4 to 7 pups, and the younger ones who usually stay with their parents until late summer. So here are 3 seasons you should be aware of. We have the mating season, which starts from January to March. During this time, we usually recommend residents to keep their pets indoors and also make sure that they're spayed or neutered. The second season is the denning season, which comes from March to July. During this time, we want to make sure that our yards are kept free of attractants, and we want to make sure we clear our brush and cease cross space access. And lastly, we had the dispersal season, which is currently now in September to December. And this is usually when the pups are already like 6 months old and they're beginning to leave their den.
We often see coyotes roaming around our neighborhoods because there are things attracting them, and we call these attractants. They're usually things that coyotes value as resources, such as food, water, and shelter. And they're under food, we have bird feed, pet food, fallen fruit from trees, overflowing garbage and compost, and unattended pets. There's also water coming from the bowls that we use to feed to water or give water to our pets, as well as bird baths. And certain things coyotes will see as shelter, which is access to crawl spaces under our homes, as well as overgrown trees, bushes, anything that's in our yard that can grow. And so this picture highlights attractants commonly found in backyards. So you can look to the bottom of the left-hand side of the trees, or left-hand side of the picture where there's trees. And here we would say trying to keep this area clean or clear so that coyotes can't make dens there, as well as in the back you can see a bush highlighted in green. There's also a bird feeder here and a bird bath, which coyotes will view as food and water and want to come into your yard because of that. And as well as this fence, although it may seem tall, it's not quite tall enough to deter coyotes. So we recommend adding things like coyote rollers, and we could talk more about that later. And just as there are things that attract coyotes to our yards, there's also things that we can do to deter coyotes. And here we can use scent. So using ammonia, vinegar, or dirty socks in our crawl spaces so that coyotes don't want to make a home there because the smell is just so bad to them. Lights, so we recommend using motion sensing lights at night. This way, if a coyote is starting to enter your yard and that light comes on, they become afraid and they'll walk away and go somewhere else. Sound, we recommend radios, ultrasonic sound, so using things like dog whistles, which is just above that register where humans can't hear it, but it bothers coyotes. You can also yell, rattle some keys, do anything to make the coyote just be like, oh, like this is too noisy, let's go away. And as well as physical deterrents, such as the fence rollers, which is what I had talked about in the previous photo, and motion sensing sprinklers. So yeah, thank you. And here, you can see the impact that resources have on coyote populations. So removing coyotes themselves without taking away their resources will result in the same number of offspring in the next pupping season. In order to effectively reduce coyote presence in our neighborhoods, we must limit their resources, because taking one coyote away, or even a few, is not going to solve the problem, and they will continue to have pups if there's enough resources for them to do so.
So this is why it's important not to provide coyotes with sources of food, even if they seem ill or if they seem like they are in need. Intentional feeding causes coyotes to become habituated to a specific area, and therefore they can associate humans with food. And over time, they'll become very comfortable and fearless of humans. Some of the things you can do to keep coyotes away is by hazing them. Hazing them is all about reinforcing their natural instincts so that they can keep being scared of humans. Some of the best techniques include waving your arms and making yourself look as big as possible, making as much noise as you can. If you have a stick, always wave it in the air. And if you're at home, if it's safe to do so, use a spray to your garden hose to spray them, or bang pots together so they can make a loud noise and scare them away. And we always recommend for you to carry a flashlight when you walk outdoors, especially during the evenings, and to carry something with you, like a stick or keys or anything that can make noise. And don't turn your back on a coyote. Always walk back slowly, and the coyote's either out of sight or that you're indoors safely.
And here we have a few coyote myths and facts. So the first myth is that we can trap our way out of the problem. Trapping is, taking coyotes, and oftentimes the perception is that we'll move them away from the area, but we actually do not trap and relocate coyotes in California. If you do trap a coyote, you'll have to release it on spot or euthanize it. But going back to the resource slide earlier, trapping will not affect the coyote population. In fact, they will just keep coming back. And the second myth is seeing a coyote means I'm in danger. This is also false, because while coyotes associate humans with food, they don't associate them as food. And that's why we try to limit the resources available to them as much as possible, because coyotes will see us going into our house, and then they recognize that that house always has low-hanging fruit. So they're going to associate us with food, but they will not see us as food, so they won't want to attack us and eat us. The next myth is that coyotes are carnivores. This is false. They are opportunistic omnivores, meaning they'll eat any food that is available to them, and that is usually also, they'll eat what's easiest too. So they're not trying to work so hard. If there's a fruit on the street, they'll eat that, but also if there's mice in the street, they'll eat that too. And next one is that our program cares more about coyotes than residents. This is not true. We do not take a pro or anti-coyote stance. We simply provide scientifically proven best practices, and we are really here for the residents. That's our role as the Neighborhood Coyote Program and the SGV COG. We're here to help y'all, and you're a priority and your safety. And the last myth is that coyotes are new to the area. This is false. Coyotes have been in LA, in the LA area for 45,000 years. The new things are the habituation and proliferation of resources. So that is why it's important that we condition coyotes to still be afraid of humans and to take away their resources.
Let's talk a little bit about our Neighborhood Coyote Program with the SGV COG. So these are some resources that we offer. We offer a hotline access and reporting tools. So what this consists of is a phone number in which you may call to report any coyote sightings. It could be that you either saw a coyote, you heard it, or it was like going into your property, into your lawn or your backyard. Anything like that would be important to report. Reporting really takes a couple minutes. You can just, the phone number is really available all day, every day. We don't monitor it 24/7, but we will get back to you. All we really need is where did you see the coyote, what time did you spotted the coyote, and also what it was doing. We want to know whether it was being aggressive or whether it was just laying down in the yard and not being not really caring whether there's humans around, and whether it was responding to hazing or not. Other resources we offer is pet safety planning, referrals to resources, workshops, and training. And we currently are working with 10 different cities, as you can see on the right-hand side, and Azusa will be one of our cities we partner with.
So for our hotline, we categorize the reports on 5 levels. Level 1 is if you see or hear a coyote or a coyote is resting in a public space. The second one is if coyotes are resting in public areas with humans present, or coyotes are entering the yard or home without pets present. Number 3 is if a coyote enters the yard and injures or kills an unattended or attended pet. A coyote has bit an injured or unattended pet, or a pet on a leash. And lastly, we have if a coyote is aggressively following you with your pets. And level 4 is our coyotes aggressively following you without your pet. And level 5 is a coyote has bitten or injured a human. And so the most common levels we get are 1s and 2s, as well as a bit of 3s. And while 4 and 5 are possible, they're extremely rare. And yes, so they're very rare, but they are possible. As for the city of Azusa, in June, there were 3 reports. 2 were level 1, 1 was a level 2. In July, there were 3 reports as well, all level 3s. And in August, there were 4 reports, and that 1 was a level 1, 2 were level 2s, and 1 was a level 3. One of the main areas of concern is the Azusa Greens Golf Course. And yeah, so these report levels, they're a little bit low, and we encourage you to continue reporting seeing coyotes, even if it's just, oh, I saw one. Doesn't have to be a whole interaction, but we really appreciate your engagement and yeah, involvement with the program.
So you might ask yourself, when should I call a coyote hotline and when should I call animal control? For a coyote hotline, it's always, you can always call whether you see a coyote, whether you hear a coyote, whether a coyote enters your property, or if there's a possible den in any property around your neighborhood. Please note that these are for non-emergency calls only. And when should you call animal control? And animal control, you should be calling when you see a coyote that's either ill or injured, or it's non-ambulatory. And if you ever have a case in which a coyote attacks your pet, it's always good to take your pet to the vet, to your local vet, and have him checked out. And if unfortunately the coyote killed the pet, it's always a good idea to call animal control and they'll be able to help you out with that. The coyote reports really help us to inform the community where coyote sightings have been, and that way everybody's more vigilant about what's going on in the community, and therefore everybody kind of takes care and looks after each other. And lastly, as you can see here, if it is a case of an emergency where a coyote attacks a human, please call 911.
And so here are just some general steps to take, some takeaways from our presentation. We encourage you to educate your neighbors, friends, and families about removing attractants. This way, if it happens on a large scale, we really will see that decline in coyote presence in our neighborhoods. We do have lots of resources on our website, including a yard audit, which kind of takes you through how to remove those attractants. And you can always email us. We will provide our contact information at the end, but you can call, email, however you would like to contact us, you can, and we can put you in touch with those resources. We also encourage you to report vacant homes. So den sites can be found in washes or on properties with code violations. You can either report them to us or go directly to code enforcement. Regardless, if you report it to us, we will go to code enforcement. And we also recommend always supervise pets outside, always use a leash, and keep that leash less than 6 feet so that coyotes are just not as attracted to your pets, and that you can really supervise and see what's going on. And if you do see a coyote, you can take the steps necessary to get you and your pet to a safe situation. And last but not least, please haze coyotes when it is safe to do so. Even if we are used to seeing coyotes, we really encourage you to haze them, even if it seems like, oh no, like I don't want to bother them. They look so peaceful. It's really important that they recognize humans as someone that they don't want to be around. And that's why we strongly encourage hazing as a tactic. And if it takes place again at a large scale, that is how it will become more effective. And here's our contact info. We have reached the end of our presentation, but we just want to remind you our hotline is listed right here with the number. Our office hours are only Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., but you can report anytime. These are for non-emergency calls. So if you call on the weekend or after our office hours, we will get back to you as soon as possible. Just leave a message. Again, like Vanessa said, briefly detailing the interaction that you had or with any concerns that you have. And you can also email us at coyotes@sgvcog.org. We have a person checking email 1 to 2 times a day. And there we can also provide you with our resources through PDF format, or you can let us know if you'd like us to mail you some resources. And finally, we encourage you to use our report form, which is tinyurl.com/sgvcoyotes. There, it takes you through the report process. I think it's the easiest way to report, and it's a survey, and it just asks you a few questions about the location, how the coyote was behaving, and among other things. But yeah, thank you so much. And I'm now going to pass off the presentation, I'm going to pass this off to Sam so he can get us to the next part of the town hall. But please take a picture of this slide, screenshot, write this down, and yeah, use this as a resource. We're here for you. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Sophia and Vanessa. I see we have one question already coming in. I just want to remind the audience that you can use the Q&A feature to ask additional questions to our panelists. We'll go ahead and get those answered live during our panel discussion after Captain Robert Landeros' presentation. Take it away.
All right, good evening. I'm Captain Robert Landeros. I'm the operations captain for the City of Azusa Police Department. I'm very familiar with the coyote concerns. I am a resident here and I actually live in near the golf course off Sierra Madre. So I have seen Oscar and the other coyotes that come around. I've spoken to residents numerous times regarding their concerns, and I'm really here to explain what the police department's role in these types of situations. As indicated in the presentation, really the police, the 911 call should be reserved for, threatening situations towards humans. If those types of situations arise, we will treat it as an emergency and dispatch officers there. Some of the things we take a look at if we see issues with coyotes, we can also notify code enforcement. If you need to get a hold of code enforcement for the City of Azusa, you can contact them through our business line, 626-812-3200. And I really, we have our policy regarding our response. We're only going to intervene if there's a threat to human life. We can't intervene if there's, they're chasing a cat down the street. We're not going to use deadly force on situations like that. If we have significant issues, we'll reach out to our partners in wildlife management to help solve these problems. And this is nothing new for our police department. We've dealt with bears, mountain lions, coyotes over the years. I'm from this area, so I grew up backpacking and hiking in these mountains and hills. So I'm used to the coyotes, and the tactics that were described in the presentation are highly effective to scare the coyotes off. And I want to open up to whatever questions anybody has for me regarding law enforcement specific response related questions.
Great, thank you so much, Captain Landeros. So we're going to be going into our Q&A session now with our panelists. And one of the things that I really want to drive home tonight, because we are having this town hall, because we have had some concerning reports coming into the hotline, reports of food being left out for coyotes, for wildlife. And feeding wildlife is illegal, but not only is it illegal, it leads to things like habituation and increasingly indifferent, or it can be interpreted as aggressive behavior towards humans. So I think it's really important that, you know, we're an education and outreach organization, first of all. So we're only half-time, we're not even part-time on the program. So we're an education and outreach program. We're not a boots on the ground type of program. So we're here, you know, when we get reports, we want to connect with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, the county code enforcement, PD, and really coordinate a response and get the community together on these issues. And one of them for me is feeding. So feeding is incredibly dangerous because it leads to habituation, which puts everyone in the community in increased risk. And for those people that are feeding wildlife and think they're doing a good thing, it's a communal food bowl for wildlife is the easiest and fastest way to spread diseases. So, you know, it's bad for your community, it's bad for your neighbors, it's bad for the wildlife, and it's illegal. So that's one thing that I really want to drive home tonight. So if you are feeding wildlife, please stop. But I'm guessing that's nobody here. If you are aware of anyone feeding wildlife, that's one great way we can partner with you and work together. That's a great report to submit to our hotline. We actually had someone in Alhambra report, I think it was a white Toyota Corolla that was showing up to a parking lot at 9 p.m. a couple nights a week, and leaving food out for feral cats, right? And so that's actionable information and actionable report. We can partner with PD, we can partner with CDFW to do something about that. So that's something I really wanted to drive home tonight. So the first question we received says, if we call the Coyote hotline to report sightings and the coyote follows or threatens us, what are the steps you can do to help people, right? So Vanessa and Sophia, you're welcome to jump in after me, but I'll kind of take a first shot at this. So again, we're an education and outreach organization, so we're going to want to know information about what the context around this, what time of day it's happening, and just provide you some best practices for making sure that you keep yourself safe when you're out on walks. So if that's during the dusk hours, you know, coyotes really hate bright lights. So a flashlight is a fantastic thing to take with you. They hate loud noises. So we have little coyote whistles we can send you for free if you want to email us at coyotes@sgvcog.org. Provide us your address. We can provide you a little keychain whistle to take with you. And again, just that education component so, you know, there's always a new way to haze. It seems like you can take a Coke can and put some pennies in there and make a coyote shaker that gets you bright, shiny lights during the day and a loud noise that coyotes really hate. There's all sorts of little tips and tricks we can provide you with for keeping safe during a walk. I don't know, Sophia, Vanessa, you had anything you wanted to add?
I just wanted to say that if the situation becomes so escalated that you're being put at danger, we will be more than happy to contact the people necessary, for example, police or 911. But we'll likely be just kind of, like Sam said, walking you through the process of hazing and providing that support to you and the actions that you should be taking. So.
And I will add also with hazing, I think sometimes there's a little bit of confusion around the reaction to expect with hazing. You know, coyotes aren't rodents, they're not squirrels, they're not rabbits that just, you know, run away, scamper away as fast as they possibly can. You know, coyotes are much more curious. And this even applies for non-habituated coyotes. You know, they're never gonna run and scamper away unless you're, yeah, that's just not a reaction to hazing, right? They'll walk away kind of slowly. They'll turn their head around and see if you're still acting all crazy with your hazing technique, and they'll just kind of slowly saunter away. They unfortunately will never run away, even though that's a reaction we might want them to have. That's just not a coyote's natural reaction to hazing. All right, so moving on to our next question here. So there's some questions and comments here. What are we supposed to do when the coyotes in my complex directly across from the golf course are so habituated that they're stalking and attacking on a regular basis? This includes multiple attacks to pets, my dog included, while on a close leash. It includes multiple pets being killed, multiple children being chased down and chased down and attacked. I was witness to one of these just a few weeks ago. The coyotes are always out in the daytime, approach people aggressively, and have become unresponsive to all hazing techniques. They are unfazed, not afraid, and do not run away often.
I can speak a little bit to, regarding if there's a situation where children are being chased down by coyotes, that would be something to call 911, and we will respond code 3 to something like that. In recent months, there's been some talk over social media regarding a child being attacked. Our agency has followed up on that, was unable to confirm that. A child attack would be something that we would respond and document, and we would notify wildlife enforcement agencies at the county and state level if that were to happen. So if you have witnessed that, my officers would like to speak to you. And then especially if you did see something in recent weeks, I do encourage you to contact us. You can contact me directly, and we can sort it out. I monitor because I live across the street from the golf course. I see the coyotes around, and I do personally utilize these tactics, these hazing tactics. And Sam's 100% right. They don't just scurry away. They'll back off a bit, turn a little skittish, and they'll watch you, but they are scared. We've used air horns from our cars, and even the hand air horns that like at football games. The air horns you can get, those work real well. Whistles. The high-pitched coyote whistles. The stuff does work. It's just as a community, we have to collectively do the right thing and educate our neighbors, to do the same kind of thing. So please don't hesitate to call the police department, even with just general questions.
And I'll add too. I think there's mentioning a apartment complex, I was talking a lot earlier about intentional feeding, right, being left out. But another big resource for coyotes that are sustaining these unnaturally large coyote populations is unintentional feeding as well. So, if you're in the apartment complex, if those bins are overflowing, if your trash bins are overflowing, right, that's an issue. If you see, again, you guys know your neighborhoods far better than we ever will. So if there's any sort of potential den site that you might suspect somewhere, when you're out on your walk, you always see a coyote coming and going from a particular property or from a particular, set of overgrown hedges or brush, we can contact whoever's responsible, and we do this regularly. Who's ever responsible for maintaining a particular property, whether it's a public agency or a private agency, we will contact them and get that brush cleared, raise the tree level so that there's no hiding spaces, there's no den sites, there's no food being left out intentionally or unintentionally to support these populations. You know, there's really just three things that are supporting the coyote population. That's food, water, and shelter. And I think the most kind of effective way to think of us as a partner for you guys and residents in Azusa is to really like work with you guys and think through where they're finding these food, water, and shelter resources so we can sustainably reduce the coyote population. That's an important goal for us and an important kind of way to think of us as a partner in this particular effort.
Sim, actually, would you mind introducing our panelists one more time, please?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I did that quickly in the beginning. Absolutely. So we have Alex Heron from California Department of Fish and Wildlife, Jim Hartman from the County Integrated Pest Management Division. And correct me if I didn't get that right.
Well, I represent the Los Angeles County Agricultural Commissioners Department, and I head the division for integrated pest management, and coyotes falls under my purview.
Excellent. And then we have Maria Rosales, who is also from the county, but provides the animal controls services is the director of the Baldwin Park facility, which is responsible for providing animal control services in the city of Azusa. And I would encourage any of our panelists to jump in and share their thoughts too as the discussion continues.
Yes, hello everybody. I like to add, that it's been mentioned that there's a high coyote sightings, and that when animals are or pets are being walked, it's highly recommended, that pets are not walked late at in the evening, or it's recommended, during the day. And also, in the high sighting areas that, you don't walk with your pet alone. And it's also been said, carry flashlights, carry a stick, carry a whistle, as has been mentioned, try never to leave, pet food out, and bring your pets indoors at night. Do not leave them unattended, even during the day or in the early morning hours. So all this helps collectively.
The other thing too, it's living along the foothills. We're not going to be able to, eliminate coyotes up there. They've been up there for a very long time, and we have the riverbed. There's a lot of places for coyotes to live. A lot of food sources up there that just exist naturally. However, if anybody sees properties that have holes in fences and things like that, you can report them to our code enforcement department or the police department so we can get a hold of the property owners. We routinely patrol up in that area for other reasons in the riverbed. And so if we see a Corps of Engineers property or fencing that needs to be replaced, or any other government entity, will work with them to get it fixed, to limit the ability for the coyotes to get out there. But being along a golf course, there's a lot of food sources just on the golf course that rodents and other things that coyotes can go after.
Yeah, and I see that there's some additional comments here. There was a request from a resident for a call, so we'll make sure to pass that along. And there's another comment. The two children were chased by a coyote, and I was at the pool and had to let them into the gate so they could be safe. And then another neighbor who was at the pool walked the kids home. This was at 900 West Sierra Madre Avenue. And I won't mention the unit number, but So that's the apartment complex at 900 West Sierra Madre, if I understand correctly.
I'll have an officer follow up on that to, see if we can speak to people and document what we have, what occurred up there.
Yeah, and I would also like to kind of in the preparation for this meeting, it came up that we might have a contact for the property manager of this apartment complex. So I will be following up with the property manager management as well. I think that could be a fruitful relationship to develop. There's a number of deterrents we could talk them through to think through for implementing in the property, which may be helpful.
Well, I think also it doesn't hurt too to when you have children and you talk to them about the fact that they should never run from an animal, whether it's a dog, whether it's a coyote, because particularly with dogs, there's an automatic predator-prey response. A lot of folks get bitten by domestic dogs because they sense it's not it's in their nature, it's not their fault. But if you run from them, they automatically go for an ankle or what have you. So it's really important that when coyotes and adults need to be supervising children, that they have an idea of what's going on around them. Just as we have two-legged predators out there that we have to keep an eye on. There's the four-legged predators as well. So it's really important that we have discussions with our children if they see a coyote to let an adult know, so that way they can have the appropriate response and kind of supervise the area. The other thing you need to worry about or concern yourself with is free-range cats. I know a lot of folks like to have kitty outside, and I get that, but unfortunately, the coyote just sees that as another food source. And cats don't realize that they're prey, so they're a lot easier to catch than the rabbit that does know it's prey. So it's really important that if you're going to have a cat, that you keep it indoors. The other thing that I would suggest too, I've got no issue about people who want to have bird feeders, but remember, birds they feed during the day. At night, you really should either cover them or take them inside, because what's the bird feeder is going to do for a coyote is bring in its other prey and things like rats, possums, raccoons. So other things that are going to be looking for that as because birds tend to be sort of messy feeders. So they're going to be looking for these other things that are going to be feeding on that grain. So whenever possible, if you can kind of eliminate that, it's a good idea, because it's just one less reason for a coyote to come by and check your neighborhood. And coyotes are creatures of habit. If they know that they've been successful or have seen food before in an area, they're going to come back and check that area first to see if there's another opportunity for them to feed.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Jen. Thank you. And I'll say, just from my own perspective, I'm also a concerned resident. I live just a little down the foothills in another area, and we get reports of bears and mountain lions and coyotes, and so there's and we've even had reports of predatory birds attacking some small dogs. So it's not just coyotes. There's other things or cars even. There's other things that can harm your animals. And I'll also say, part of my own learning experience in getting knowledgeable about the coyote issue, we have some fruit trees in the back, and about 25% of a coyote's diet is fruit. And so just, I look at my backyard in a totally different way now. It is, whether we like it or not, it's part of an ecosystem. And things like squirrels, going after the fruit. Coyotes are smart. They'll see those squirrels coming and going in a particular area, and then they'll wait there to hunt either the squirrel or get some fruit that's fallen onto the ground. So it's we have a yard audit we can send people, and it's kind of a good way to think through the role that your yard and your community is playing in the ecosystem, and kind of really just makes you think about your yard in a totally different way. And you know, I'm wondering, and oh, I'm sorry, I'm seeing some more comments here. So we have so someone's saying we live bordering the golf course. We all know where the den is. Why isn't someone patrolling the golf course? So I don't know if anyone's reported this to the city or PD, but we've not had a specific report of a den site. So I would be very interested in hearing the location of the den site. So again, I would encourage you, coyotes@sgvcog.org, and we can follow up and investigate that with the appropriate agency. I will say we need a little bit more information than just the golf course. So please try and be as specific as possible. That would be great. And there's an additional comment, FYI, Villa Azusa are expensive condos, not apartments. We are run by a board of directors. Okay, thank you for that correction. So I would, yes, whoever's responsible for maintaining the property, ultimately there must be somebody there. I would be very, very curious in getting in contact with them and discussing some deterrent implementation.
We do have a question in the chat. Actually, going back to the townhomes, we were given the information of the property manager and the HOA, so that is something that we can follow up on. And then in the chat, Terry Hernandez has a question, and it's, do coyotes typically roam around in packs?
So I can answer that one. I'll take a stab at it. So coyotes, they are, you know, they're wild canines, similar to dogs. So they do roam around in not necessarily packs like, you know, wolf packs, but they do roam around in or can roam around in sort of family pairs. So often there's a breeding male, a breeding female, one pair of coyotes in the territory, and then they have their you know, siblings or some of their sometimes older offspring that aren't part of that breeding pair, but they might be still within that sort of the family unit territory. And we do know from studies from other studies going around that especially in sort of residential areas, there's just so much food available that those territories can be fairly small. So it's sometimes that impacts their, you know, it's not necessarily like a sort of, you know, what do you see in National Geographic for wolves, that they have a very cohesive pack that has a very well-defined wide territory. For coyotes, especially in more of a urban residential setting, it's more of a loose-knit, you know, family and small territories, just because again they don't need a lot of room to get food, just because there's so many food sources. So so yeah, it's not uncommon to see, you know, a coyote and maybe either the breeding pair or you know, mom and the pups, depending on the season. But yeah.
And Jim, I saw you were going to unmute. Did you have anything to add on that?
No, not really. I mean, yeah, they form small family groups readily, and you know, of course, you also have the transients that move in between habitats. You know, again, because we have so much food available for them, they don't have the normal areas that you would have, like a defined pack area. But the thing is, I think a lot of folks confuse coyotes with wolves, and wolves get much larger pack because they're pack hunters, but they're going after much larger prey as well. Coyotes can sustain themselves on much smaller amounts of food or animals, and they're not designed to do anything much more than things that are about a medium-sized dog type prey. So they don't have to pull down an elk like you would have to, or a wolf. So they will tend to stay in smaller groups, and again, it depends on, you know, and nature does what it does. You have diseases and things that take them out, but they have a tendency to stay rather small groups because they're also going to pair off and find their own territories as well.
Great, thank you. And I see a comment in the chat. These coyotes are out all day and night. They are not afraid of people. What do we do? And I'll put that to the panelists as well, but I'll add something, one thing we get some questions around is day and night. And so healthy active coyotes are most active and looking for food at night. We do see coyotes during the day. They tend to be older or a little, they might be infected with something, or they're just not as healthy as the rest of the coyotes. And so they struggle to get food during the night with the more competitive, the healthier, more aggressive coyotes. And so that's more likely to be what you'll see during the day.
I was going to say too, so coyotes, there's only two predators for coyotes: mountain lions and cars. And they don't see us because we don't shoot at them or do anything to them. So somebody once actually talked about coyotes see us as like wallpaper. We simply don't exist for them because we don't have any major interactions with them. That's where hazing comes in, to try to reintroduce that fear factor to them. So although coyotes primarily are what they call crepuscular, so they feed during the early morning or late in the evening. If they feel comfortable in an area, they'll move within an area throughout the day. Now, hot parts of the day, they're going to want to loaf or be someplace where they can just kind of chill. It also depends on how successful they were the night before or that morning for food. And also, too, if they've got young pups, the adults are going to make more of an effort to find food, because they've got to, the mom has to still make milk, or they have to bring in prey for their young ones. But the thing is that they can be seen throughout the day. It's really a question of how comfortable they are in our environments. This also talks about how the arrangement of habitat is for them. If there's a lot of overgrown brush, or you've got fruit trees or trees that have really low hanging skirts to them, where they can easily be screened out. That's unfortunately one of the things that they like about our flood control channels, because they can generally be below observation from what someone would see from street side. So they will move freely throughout the day. It's just, in general, in nature, you very seldom see them out during the day. But here, again, because they become so habituated to our noises and how we are around ourselves, it's not as threatening to them. So it's not something that is unusual. But then again, it's not necessarily threatening either that you're seeing them during the day. But it is more common to see them at night or first thing in the morning. If that makes sense.
And I would add on to that. So if you do see them and they're not responding to hazing, first of all, again, make sure you report that to either to the COG or to the city, because oftentimes I'm positioned up at the over in the state capitol in Sacramento, and we get a lot of, by the time it gets up to us, it's already sort of too late. There's a lot of people who have said that they see a problem, but so again, if you're seeing these, make sure that you report the issue to the COG so that they can keep tracking tracking the issues and outreaching you. So again, that we in areas where we start seeing an uptick in reports, we can implement those early hazing techniques when they're most effective. And for the cases that are, if the coyote, unfortunately, sometimes hazing isn't working in all circumstances. Sometimes a different response is going to be needed, but that's sort of at a case-by-case basis. But the COG and the city can help coordinate that with other various partners and agencies involved.
I see some other comments regarding Jim's right regarding just because of the area it's in, because it's so close to the hillside and the riverbed where there's a lot more nature out there. They are going to be out there during the day. I have seen coyotes up there. Up at Northside Park, someone referenced a coyote in the park. I know they've been at least 2 coyotes have been frequenting that park up there. I don't recall anybody reporting being chased, but I see some comments in there that someone's husband was chased by two in the early morning. Please call 911 if you're being chased by coyote or you just got chased with a coyote, because we want to know about that, because that could potentially be a life-threatening issue. But I have personally used these techniques, these hazing techniques up there on Sierra Madre, and it does work. I actually earlier was showing a photo that I took of a coyote in my complex that was eating trash that was left out. I think really what it comes down to, we as humans, our neighbors are doing things that they're not supposed to be doing. All of our agencies here, we want to help mitigate the problem. We're not going to completely eliminate it. It's going to take community effort. It's going to take all of us that speak to neighbors up there and try to educate our neighbors regarding, don't leave your trash by the dumpster or out where coyotes can get it. Make sure it's all in the dumpster. If everybody's using the hazing techniques, if you're driving up there through your complex and you hit your horn multiple times, that works also. I've utilized that tactic. So these things do work. And if you're having problems with it, you need help with it, please contact the city or the COG.
Yeah, that's
I
great.
use them myself. I mean, to be honest with you, one of the things I've always found to be helpful is you wouldn't want to do this with lions, tigers, or bears because they'll eat you, but eye contact with coyotes. Coyotes get the fact that they're at a lower level than we are. So you make eye contact and you be aggressive. You get your inner animal out and maybe shout obscenities, whatever makes them go away. I found that even I'll chase after them and they'll run. They'll stop about 40 yards away. We'll look to see if this crazy guy is still chasing after them. I bounce after them again and they're gone. And I've never had it not work. But again, it has to be something consistent in your neighborhood, and you have to have it on and on and on going. It can't be just you'll just do it today or tomorrow. I got something else to do. You have to be consistent and have your neighbors do that. That's one of the reasons why the Wildlife Watch program that this California Department of Fish and Wildlife has is such a great program. They can come into your neighborhood and teach you techniques for that, and they will. It's based on the old neighborhood watch program that a lot of police agencies also still have. And you have block captains and they encourage one another. It's a really fantastic program that empowers your residents to help themselves as well. So it's something that I certainly encourage folks to do too, because it's something that you can do as a citizen to help yourself as well, because we're all in this together when it comes to wildlife coexistence and preventing wildlife conflicts. I always like to think that the smarter of the two creatures that are out there can make the difference. I'd like to think that's still us. So it really, a lot of these problems are brought on because they've associated us with food. So it's really kind of, unfortunately, it falls to us to kind of help be the solution for that as well.
Jim, your tactic of staring them down actually works. I'll share this photo right here that I took one morning. I was walking to my car. And if you see that coyote's eating a chicken bone, I'm not far from it. It looked up at me, and I basically came at it quick, walked towards it like with my arms up in an aggressive way, and the thing took off. They
get that they're not, that we still are in charge of things, So I mean, however, you make sure that when you do haze a coyote, you're not backing it into a corner, because no animal, they're going to react differently if you're sticking them in the corner or something, or you have like 15 people and you're moving an animal into an area where it can't escape. It has to have a place for it to escape. So we have to be cognizant of when we do this, that we allow an opportunity for the animal to go someplace where we don't care where it goes. So it's kind of important to do that as well. Again, it's really about keeping cognizant of what's around you and what's happening. Same thing when you're out at night or early in the morning. Again, we all need to be aware of our surroundings. If you're going to come into an area and you have to walk your dog for whatever reason early in the morning, you want to avoid areas where you're going to have hedges or places where anything can ambush you, right? So it's just thinking ahead and thinking about what your route is going to be to try to protect you and your pets.
Yeah, and that's important in foothill communities too. When you're out on a hike, if you've got your dog with you, you want to keep that on a very short leash because you just don't know what's going to be around the corner or around that bend. So that's a great comment there. And I see Nico added into the chat that in some communities, special wildlife safe trash bins are available through the city's waste management provider. Additional information will be made available on the city's website as appropriate. So thank you for adding that. And you can also, again, reach out to us as well if you can't find that, and we will connect you to the right resource. And Alex, I saw you already answered this, but I think that might be beneficial for the group to talk about our sense of unneutered or unspayed dogs and a sexual attractant to the coyotes, or are they simply an attractant as a food source?
Yeah, sure. So, and that's a it's a great question, and I don't actually have any of the I don't know what the research says, or there's been research on that. But in general, animal smells like pet smells is probably going to be more of an attractant to a coyote, not just because again they are interested and curious creatures. So if they smell another like a dog, if it's a larger dog, they may think it's a competitor or a maybe another coyote. If it's a smaller dog, they may smell it as a food source. So in general, I'd advise to if at all possible, try to remove animal smells. So, removing pet waste or spraying down an area, or using, I think a Sam or maybe it was Sophia or Vanessa mentioned using like a rag soaked in ammonia or something like that to try to mask a smell, just because again, they regardless of whether the coyote will be attracted to it for whatever reason, or if it's just curiosity, it's just best to try to minimize that smell and minimize the attractant.
All right, great. Thanks, guys. So we are just over 7 already. I can't believe that hour flew by. So, and I don't see any more questions, but Alex, did you want to talk about Wildlife Watch program at all?
Sure, yeah, I'll give and thanks, Jim, for the shout out. Jim's agency is one of our partner agencies, as well as the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments and our Wildlife Watch program. Since we're running a little bit short in time, I would just, I'm not going to necessarily repeat what Jim already said, just echoing that it's a program that I'm really excited about. So if you feel like that might be a good fit for your community, definitely reach out to the folks at the COG, and they can put you in contact with us. And I know Sam, I guess to bring it back around to the beginning, Sam, you mentioned earlier that one of the big issues is people feeding, because some people may want to try to help wildlife. So if you know those folks who do want, who have those intentions that they're trying to help make a difference, a program like Wildlife Watch can be a much safer and effective way to help wildlife rather than feeding wildlife. So that might be a good opportunity for folks regardless of how you feel towards the wildlife in your community.
And is it right to kind of think of the Wildlife Watch program, because I think most people are more familiar with the Neighborhood Watch program. Is it kind of like that, but for wildlife?
Correct. Yes. So Neighborhood Watch is a program designed to sort of build community engagement, awareness of issues that could lead to crime in the neighborhood, whether that's through a block captain, a homeowner association, or whatever sort of local organization. And Wildlife Watch follows that model in that it uses local community members to keep an eye out for things that might be a problem for wildlife in the community. So like helping out with these yard audits, or identifying possible attractants or locations for denning sites. And again, the folks that like Sam said, they don't have the staff to be on the ground in all of their cities. So this is a way that you can help enlist you and your neighbors' support for helping resolve these issues together hopefully before problems with coyotes occur.
That's great. Thank you so much, Alex. So we are over the hour already, and I just wanted to thank everyone, our panelists, our attendees, absolutely everyone for being here tonight for this really important discussion. I know we have a couple follow-ups on our end, And I think meeting with that HOA there at 900 Sierra Madre could be really beneficial. And I think maybe getting a wildlife watch program might be a really interesting way to for the community to engage and kind of correct the ship here in that area in Azusa. With that, I'll close things out unless anyone else has any other closing comments.
Sam, I just wanted to thank you. Obviously, thank you to all those who attended the webinar or who will be watching the recorded version of the session at a later point. Of course, to our panelists and to our police captain. You know, clearly there's various resources that are available. Addressing the issues are going to require a multifaceted approach, which will involve one part education, one part multi-agency collaboration, and just some basic common sense. So we ask the residents to help us, help you by communicating with us, using the hotline, and of course, dialing 911 when appropriate. Again, thank you from the city of Azusa. We welcome all your questions. If you haven't had your question answered, email the COG or email the city by going on the city website. The link was attached in the chat. Thank you, everybody.
And I will be following up with everyone who registered through the Coyote email, and I will send some flyers, informational flyers and a brochure about our program, as well as resources like the yard audit and a deterrence document. And that way you'll also just have our email. That will happen next week. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good evening.